Now, I've been a long-time fan of Formula 1. I've been watching the sport for as long as I can remember. Formula 1 cars are some of the most extreme, complex machines on the planet. They're super fast and they produce a lot of downforce. So for today's video, guys, I decided that I want to try and recreate a Formula 1 car inside Fortnite. So getting started, guys, we're going to be working on the front nose of this car. I'm using just the red parkour gallery for this build pretty much. Basically just using all the different shaped pipes to create the basic bodywork. So as you can see, I'm sort of just using that red pipe to sort of create the rough shape of the nose cone at the front of the car. And really all I'm trying to do at this point is figure out where the driver needs to sit. So I have a bunch of reference images open so that I can sort of see where different things need to go and where they are in game. So now that I have the rough idea of where the driver's going to sit, that helps me figure out the proportions a lot better, and I'm ready to start work on the front wing. Now the front wing is actually made of 4 different wings. They're just technically just smaller wings stacked on top of one another, and I just wanted to make sure that I flattened down that red pipe and basically made lots of different small wings and got the rough shape of this front wing assembly. Now that I have the front wing sorted, I'm going to be moving on to the side air intakes. These are like one of the most iconic features of a Formula 1 car. They're basically the main body, and yeah, we'll be getting to that a little bit later on. But for now, I went ahead and added in that carbon fiber floor just so I could figure out how low this car was going to be riding, and then moving on to the front wheel suspension. Now I've overly simplified that front wheel suspension to just 3 different carbon fiber struts, but I think that's all that we really needed for this build. Moving on to the front wheel, basically creating that alloy wheel out of concrete curbs, and also using the light for the silver ring around the alloy. Now I'm just trying to locate that front right wheel onto the suspension, and I'm playing around with the left hand side suspension to try and make it match the other side as closely as possible. Moving further into the build now, I'm going ahead and just rounding out that floor on the bottom and also sort of giving some shape to that front side air intake. Moving on now, I'm adding in the rough concrete floor so that I can make sure that I have everything aligned in terms of the height of the car. And then I'm moving on to that side air intake that I mentioned earlier. Now this is actually one of the most defining features of the Formula 1 car, as I said. It's basically the giant curvy section in the middle of the car, and I think at this point the car really starts to get its shape. Now I'm moving on to that central air intake, which is located above the driver's head. Next, I decided to make the halo, which is a new safety device inside Formula 1, which helps protect the driver's head in the event of a crash. Moving further back, I just want to make sure that this car isn't going to be too long, and I want to check the proportions, so I go right to the end just by wireframing the rough outline of the car, and I decide to make the rear wing assembly. It's at this point that I realize the car is going to be a little bit too long, so I decide to move everything forward a little bit just to make sure that the proportions are right. Now I decide to then go back and fill out that wireframe section that I created and just try to get this car as complete as possible. I'm also going ahead there and straightening out that rear assembly, because what you didn't see on camera was the fact that it was very skewed to the right hand side, but it obviously needs to be dead straight with the rest of the car. So going ahead now and copying across this side air intake to the other side. If Fortnite added the ability to copy and paste things right down a selected mirror, I would have been able to put a mirror right down the middle of the car and then just created a flipped version of that selection. But unfortunately we don't have that feature in Fortnite right now, so I have to make everything twice and just try and get it to match as closely by eye. So I'm just going ahead now and filling out the rest of the panel gaps, and also going ahead and creating the rear suspension and making sure that I have the rear wheels in place. Moving on to the central spot where the driver's going to sit, I finish out that seat and also add in the sidewalls just to neaten up that general area. Also going ahead now and adding in those thicker tyres at the back, making sure that the rest of the car is as complete as possible. I also have to rejig the rear wing and make it a little bit bigger. Based on the reference images, I had actually made that rear wing a little bit too small, so I just had to extend it out a little bit more. Just going ahead now and adding in a general exhaust system and just some general pipe work. Also going in and adding that rear rain light and crash structure. So now that the basic shape of the Formula 1 car is complete, we can go ahead with adding the stickers to the car. Now, I am using a reference image of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari from 2019, so all of those sponsors and logos are going to be put onto the car using the billboard device. Now, obviously we only have 3 fonts to choose from, so it's going to be slightly difficult to create the different logos, but just by switching up the different cases from uppercase to lowercase, also shrinking down the signs and adding spaces between letters can help you get some good variation between the different text and the different fonts. Finishing up adding some of the different sponsors, and in a minute here you're going to see me adding emojis to the car. So I add an Italian flag to the car, and I also go ahead and add the Shell logo, which in this case is actually just the high five emoji. And that's pretty much it. I mean, the car and its shape is pretty much finished, and I've also gone ahead and added all of those sponsors. So I'm just going ahead now and creating a rough racetrack, just using the color blocks for the red and white curbs, and then also adding in the grass around the car. Alright guys, so it's been between 4 and 5 hours, and I'm really happy with the way this turned out. I mean, Formula 1 cars are known for being really complex shapes, and they have loads of different little aero elements, and Fortnite Creative especially is known for its lack of curved pieces. So this was going to be a challenging build from the very start, but I think all things considered, I actually managed to get this pretty close to the original thing. But that's what I think of it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and also go ahead and suggest any ideas that you want to see me build in the future. But that's going to do it for today's video, guys. If you did enjoy it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. If you enjoyed this video, guys, why don't you go ahead and check out either my last video or the one recommended to you by the YouTube algorithm.